Oh. Same ceiling, same question again. Been inside my head going on 3 weeks now. Curtains doing most of the work the sun allows. Dishes in the sink, telling time better than clocks. Phone face up for once. Nobody knocks, nobody knocks. The plant is dying slowly in the corner by the door. I keep meaning to water it, keep meaning to do more than exist horizontally in this apartment that used to feel like living now just feels like a place where time goes to wait. I order the same food every other night. The delivery guy stopped asking if I'm alright, which means either he respects my privacy or he already knows the answer and decided some questions are of kindness better left unasked. Four walls know everything. Heard me talking to myself, heard me playing our old songs, heard me putting them back on the shelf, then taking them back out. Four walls kept the secrets, four walls held the sound of a person coming apart very quietly, so the neighbors wouldn't hear. Four walls, that's my whole world for now. Four walls, I'm working on the door. I swear today I opened the curtain just the one left side only. Let the afternoon come in a little. Sat in the light for 11 minutes. Counted them, felt almost human, almost ready, almost. The plant is still alive, barely, but alive. Watered it this morning. First thing before the phone, before the spiral, for the familiar pool of the horizon. Stood at the window long enough to see a kid fall off a bicycle, get back up, laugh about it to nobody, and keep riding. Kept thinking about that all day, the laughing to nobody, the getting back up to keep riding. Maybe that's enough of a lesson for one Thursday. Four walls heard me breaking, four walls heard me break. Four walls kept me safe enough to make it to today. And today I open one curtain, one side, only 11 minutes of light on a Thursday. That's not nothing, that's not nothing. Four walls, witness to a person slowly finding their way back to the door. I'll be leaving soon, not yet, but soon, I promise. Curtain, 11 minutes, that's enough for today. Didn't invite you, but here you are again. You live between my 2 p.m. meeting and my 4 p.m. call. In the 11 minutes I forget to be productive, you move right in. Set up furniture, put pictures on the walls. You're in the grocery store, in the pasta aisle, specifically because we argued once about which brand extra dollar, and you were right, which made it worse. You're in the playlist my colleague made for the office. Third song, didn't see it coming, had to go pretend the bathroom needed me urgently. You're in the weather app because your city still shows up as a safe location, and I can't bring myself to delete it. Still want to know if it's raining where you are. Living rent free in every corner of my brain, didn't sign a lease, but somehow you remain past the expiration of whatever we were. Past the point where logic should have cleared you out. Move someone else in, living rent free, taking up the space where focus used to live, where sleep used to live, where reasonable adult decisions used to live. Before you moved in and renovated everything. My therapist says boundaries, my friends say delete his number. My mother says eat something, my body says sleep. None of them understand that eviction proceedings for a person who lives inside your chest require paperwork nobody teaches you how to fight. It's been long enough that I should find it funny, and sometimes I do laugh at myself in a car thinking about a specific way you held them up with both hands. Even in summer, like the warmth was the point, not the coffee. Who thinks about that? Who catalogs that? Apparently I do. Apparently that's the kind of tenant you became, the kind that notices everything on the way out. Living rent free in the best parts of my memory, living rent free in the songs that hit without warning, in the foods that taste like Sundays, in the jokes that need explaining to everyone else who wasn't rent free, in the honest truth. The part I don't say out loud is that some mornings I'm not sure I wanna start the eviction. Some mornings the rent-free feels like the only luxury I can still afford, of something that was very, very good. Make yourself comfortable. You already have. Yeah. Rent free. Everything muffled, everything blue, everything moving, fast speed. There are days I feel like being inside a giant aquarium, sound arriving slightly delayed from its source. People moving behind glass, mouths forming words that reach me, translated into something adjacent to what they meant. I smile at the right intervals, not at the right pauses. Nobody notices the glass, nobody ever notices the glass. The glass. I've gotten skilled at performing presence while being somewhere fundamentally else. A whole parallel life happening behind the eyes that are looking directly at you, that are agreeing. I do so hastily about the restaurant, about the weekend, about the thing that happened to the person we both know. While somewhere deeper, a much quieter conversation is happening about something I haven't named yet. Aquarium days, everything refracted slightly wrong. Aquarium day. The light comes in but bends on the way to me. I'm in here, swimming slowly, watching the world move at normal speed through the glass that nobody can see but me. Aquarium day. Not depression, not exactly, more like the right before something shifts, the pressure change. Before weather, the hell, before the word that changes everything. Aquarium days, I've learned to wait them out, learned they in, they always end. I just have to stay in the water until the glass dissolves. She asked me what was wrong at dinner third time this weekend. I tried to explain the aquarium thing, the glass thing, the being present but refracted thing. She listened the way she does, which is completely without interruption, then said, I see you in there, I want you to know. Well, I see you in there. Something in the water shifted, even the best glass can't filter that. Even the deepest aquarium can't muffle being seen. About aquarium days is they have their own beauty. If you stop fighting the water, the particular blue of existence slightly removed from the loudness of everything. The way thoughts move differently in here, slower, more deliberate, like they have to work harder to ride, which means the ones that do are the ones worth keeping. Aquarium days, delivering the signal through the noise of all the other days that move too fast for honest things to find their shape. Aquarium days, less frequent now. Aquarium days, I know the feeling before it arrives. Know the glass starting to form, know to be gentle with myself in the water, know to tell someone I see you in there, I want you to know I see you in there. Aquarium days, part of the weather of being a person who feels things at a certain depth, who can't always control the water level but knows how to swim, knows the glass always eventually dissolves. Aquarium days, I surface every time, every single time I surface. Coming out, almost there. Surface, yeah, that is. Almost there. Sir. Yeah. It is. Nobody hands you the instructions. You build first, read them after. At 22, I drew a life on a cocktail napkin in a bar. Nobody remembers the name, a career by 30, house by 35. Everything's solved by 40, folded the napkin, put it in my wallet, carried it for 3 years until the washing machine made the decision for me, dissolved it into nothing, which was the most useful thing the napkin never did. The architects I admire most are the ones who understand that the building always argues back. The stone has opinions, the light will do what light decides, not what the drawing suggested. That the best structures are conversations between what was planned and what the material insisted on, instead what you designed on what wanted to exist. vibes, first contact with the actual blueprint. The material always knows something the drawing didn't. Blueprint. What I planned for my life at 22 on a cocktail napkin at the washing machine, correctly dissolved. Blueprint would arrive instead was better than anything I could have drawn. More specific, more strange, more entirely mine. Blueprint. The plan was never the point, the building was always the point. Whatever shape it needed to take. I stood in my life last Tuesday like a man standing inside a building he doesn't remember designing but recognizes as his anyway. Every decision that seemed wrong at the time, every detour, every dissolved napkin, every wall that went up where a window's supposed to be, all of it somehow, load bearing all of it somehow, exactly where it needed to be. I drew a new blueprint recently, not on a napkin or nothing, just held it in mind loosely, the way you hold something you're willing to lose to the washing machine again. Willing to let the material walk you back, willing to let the light do what light decides, just to lose hope for entirely revisible sense of direction. Not a plan, just a leaning towards something that feels worth building without knowing yet what it wants to become. Blueprint, held loosely. Blueprint, the building knows things the drawing doesn't. Blueprint, I'm learning to consult the material before I decide what it's for. Learning to ask what wants to exist here, rather than imposing what I drew at 22 on a napkin in a bar nobody remembers. Blueprint, the life that argued back against every plan and built itself into something I wouldn't trade for the napkin version, not for anything. Blueprint, what I planned. Blueprint, what I blueprint. Blueprint, what I blueprint. Now we're blueprint. We always knew this had an expiration. Loved it anyway. Ooh, yeah. You had a flight booked before we met, a life already architected in another time zone, another language, another version of yourself that didn't include a particular complication of a man who fell faster than the calendar allowed. We never said forever, never had the luxury of that specific delusion. Instead we had right now. We had this Tuesday, we had the particular intensity of people who know the clock is not the friend who love louder. Because of it, who notice everything, because nothing gets to be taken for granted when the departure date is written on a wall. Borrowed time, the most honest kind. Borrowed time, no room for the lies we tell ourselves when forever seems available. Borrowed time, stripped everything down to a matter, left the noise outside the door. Borrowed time taught me more about loving than any relationship. The thought it out forever and wasted it being comfortable. Borrowed time, best time I ever spent. The night before your flight, we didn't sleep, didn't make it dramatic either. Just stayed awake the way you do when something precious is in a room and you already know tomorrow room changes. Talked about everything that didn't matter, said nothing about the thing I did. Understood each other perfectly in the silence between the words. You thought you liked this. I stared at it for 20 minutes, typed 14 responses, said a single word. Yeah, because everything else would have opened a door. We'd agreed to leave closed out of respect for what it was, out of love for what it was, out of understanding. And some things are complete exactly as they are without addition. Where would I sequel? Borrow time. I'd borrow it again. Borrow time. Knowing exactly how it ends, knowing from the first day that the last day was already written, and choosing fully anyway. Borrow time. I'm brave, walking into something beautiful with your eyes open to its limits and loving it all the way to the end. Borrow time. Thank you for every stolen hour, every complete, unrepeatable moment of borrow time, yeah. Every stolen, unrepeatable moment of borrow time. Worth it. Every second borrow. Every single one. Yeah. Never been religious till it yeah. Mama raised me in the pews, every Sunday dressed in white. Learn the prayers before the alphabet, learn wrong before the right. But I stopped believing somewhere between 15 and the rain. Stopped talking to the sea when the ceiling felt the same. Then you walked into that diner on a Wednesday, nothing day, and something old in me got down on its knees and started praying. Oh, the way you pour your coffee like a ceremony slow, the way you read the paper like the world deserves to know. Every gesture deliver, every word chosen clean. You made the ordinary sacred, made the mundane something worth believing. You're my church on Sunday morning, and you're the hymn I can't stop humming. And every moment spent beside you feels like something I've been missing all my life without the knowing. You're the altar I keep coming back to when the world gets cold. You're my church, and I'm a believer for the first time since I was told that faith was just a feeling. Baby, this is how it feels. You're my church, and everything in here is real. I don't need the stained glass, don't need the stained glass. Don't need the organ sound, don't need the organ sound. Just need you on a Tuesday when everything falls down. Just need your hand across the table, just need your voice at night. Just need the specific comfort of somebody who makes the darkness slightly less dark, slightly more alive. My mother prays for me still every morning on her knees. Ask the Lord to send me something worth believing in, worth the keeping. I think He listened, just took His time. Send me someone who restored a kind of faith I buried deep inside. Not the Sunday morning kind, not the kneel and bow kind, just the quiet, certain knowing that some things are designed. You're my church. got 2 plates again. Oh, happy. Put 1 back. Ooh, yeah, yeah. Bought groceries for a version of my life that no longer exists. 2 of everything, out of muscle memory, out of the particular stubbornness of a body that hasn't updated a shopping list since you left. The second avocado always goes bad on account of where your keys used to be. I buy it anyway. Some protest has no logic, just persistence. Cooking for one has its own specific mathematics. Everything's scaled down, except the loneliness which somehow doesn't help when the portion does. I make the full recipe anyway. Eat half on Tuesday, the rest go from the container. Standing at the refrigerator on Thursday, which is either sad or efficient, depending entirely on the day. Dinner for one, table set for the memory of something fuller. Dinner for one, candle seems excessive, but I light it anyway, because you taught me that the small ceremonies matter most. The ones nobody sees, the ones you do only for yourself. Dinner for one, plate still warm, glass still poured, somebody still here just as somebody changed. Dinner for one, learning to be good company for myself. Still learning, still at the table, still showing up for the meal. My neighbor knocked last Wednesday, said she smelled something incredible. Was I expecting company? I said no. She looked at the single plate, the single place. The candle said that's either very sad or very evolved. I said, ask me again. In 6 months she laughed, left me half a pie, which I ate standing at the counter, which felt like exactly the right way to receive unexpected kindness. Started a new habit, play something while I cook, not the brown noise. Actually listen like the meal deserves a soundtrack, which it does, which everything does. You taught me that too without knowing, just by being someone who paid attention to the quality of ordinary moments. I carry that forward into the kitchen, into the single plate, into the candle that nobody asked for, but I light anyway. For the ceremony, for the reminder that eating alone doesn't have to mean eating without care, without intention, without the small, beautiful, and necessary act of making something worth showing up for. Yeah. Dinner for one, the one is learning to be enough reason to make it beautiful. Dinner for one, candle music on, avocado going bad on the counter in honor of a habit we're keeping even without the original reason. Dinner for one, which is also dinner with myself, which is also the oldest, most necessary dinner anyone ever has to learn to enjoy. For one, table set, candle burning, somebody showing up for themselves, finally fully. Still warm, still worth it. Dinner for one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Everything I say comes back to me. Yeah. Different. I said I love you to an empty room, just to hear what it sounded like out loud. After all this time, carrying it silent, like something too fragile for air. It bounced off Every walk came back softer than I sent it, like the room was trying to be gentle with me. I've been talking to your voicemail, hanging up for the beat 12 times this month, counting them like evidence of something I can't name in polite company. Just a man and a phone and 11 almost confessions sitting somewhere in a server. Nobody reads. Echo of your laughter in every crowded room, echo of your perfume in every elevator I step into, echo of a conversation we never finished, echo of the version of myself I was becoming when you were close enough to witness it. Everything echoes, everything returns, just slightly changed, just slightly out of reach. Everything echoes, baby, that's the thing about loving someone quietly. Sound never leaves. Scientists say sound waves, they never truly die, just get quieter, traveling outward forever into space. I think about that on the bad nights. Everywhere we sail, still moving somewhere, getting quieter but never gone, never completely gone. I ran into your friend at the bookstore. She said your name before hello, and my whole body did that thing where it forgets it's supposed to be composed, supposed to be moved on, supposed to be whatever comes after loving someone who loved you back briefly, brilliantly, then chose a different direction for their life. Echo of your handwriting on a card I keep, echo of the Sunday morning version of your laugh when nothing was required of either of us, just existing, parallel warm. Echo of a life that almost happened, echo of a name I still say in my sleep. Apparently my roommate told me. Echo, everything echoes, the good ones most of all. The ones that meant it. Echo the loudest long after the source goes quiet. Still here, still echoing. Hello, 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 yeah.
I catch myself making these gestures. Didn't even notice until she pointed it out.
I hold my coffee the same way he does, both hands. Even in July, I learned it watching him at the kitchen table every morning before the house woke up before the day made his demand. Just a man and his mug in the particular silence of someone who knows the value of 5 quiet minutes before the world begins. I apologize the same way he does. Sideways, never direct. Come back into the room with something useful. Fix the thing you mentioned 3 weeks ago. Made the meal you said you liked once. Briefly, doesn't say sorry with the words. Says it with his hands, with his presence, with the coffee already made. Before you ask, father, son, like it or not. Father, son, carrying what he's got. The good parts and the complicated parts. The silence where words should live. The love that doesn't know how to give itself without a task attached. Father, son, his walk, his hands, his way of standing at the edge of things. Watching, making sure everyone's okay before he lets himself be anything. Father, son, learning which parts to keep, parts to gentle into something the next generation won't have to unlearn. He wasn't perfect, wasn't supposed to be. Was a man doing the math of his own damage while simultaneously trying to provide something better for children who would one day sit with his song and nod. The way I'm nodding now, understanding finally the love sometimes looks like showing up, even broken, especially broken, showing up anyway. I called him on a nothing Thursday. He picked up first ring like always, like he keeps the phone close in case one of us needs something we don't know how to ask for. We talked for 40 minutes about weather, sports, the car, everything except the thing, which was I miss you, I'm grateful I see you now. Ways I couldn't at 20. I'm sorry it took this long to understand the language you were speaking the whole time. With your hands, with your presence, with the coffee already made. Finally proud of it. Father standing in the sacrifice, disguised the silence, the love disguised as fixing things, the fear disguised as strictness, the hope disguised as expectation. I see it all now from the other side of enough years. By the sun, I carry him gently into every room, every relationship, every morning with my coffee, both hands. Even in July, even in July. Father, son, thank you. Both hands, even in July. The best conversation never happened inside. Always out here on the edge. We dragged two chairs out the window, 3rd floor, above the laundromat that never closed. Summer that never cool, city that never fully committed to being quiet. Even at 2 a.m., even on Wednesdays, even when 2 people needed it too. Just for an hour, just while they figured out something important about themselves and each other. There's a freedom specific to fire escapes. You're outside, but attached to something you could go back into at any moment, which makes it staying a choice. Every minute a chosen exposure to the air, the noise, the honest dark of a city that doesn't care about your conversation, but somehow holds it better than any room. escape, where we said that things too large for ceilings, too restless for walls. Fire escape, hanging between the private and the world, neither fully in nor fully out, which is also where the true things live, in the threshold, in the between, on the iron that holds you, barely but holds you. Fire escape, where I told you something I've been holding since the previous winter, and the city below kept moving like it didn't know. Everything just shifted up here on the third floor, above the laundromat that never closed. The pigeon on the railing opposite watched us with the supreme indifference of creatures who have witnessed every possible human conversation from this altitude, and found them all equally unremarkable, which was comforting in its way to be unremarkable, to something to be just two more people working something out on an iron platform above a city that has seen all of this before and made room for it anyway. We stayed out there until the chairs got too cold to pretend, otherwise went back inside through the window, which requires a specific ungraceful maneuver that we both executed badly and laughed about, which was also the right ending for a conversation that heavy, something clumsy, something human, something that reminded us we were bodies, not just the serious thoughts those bodies were having out there on the iron above the city that never committed to being quiet. Fire escape, I go out there alone sometimes now, two chairs, still both of them, because we're moving. One feels like a statement I'm not ready to make. Fire escape, city still moving below, pigeon still indifferent above, iron still holding, barely but holding. Fire escape, where I said the thing, where you heard it, where the city made room for it like it always does, for the conversations too large for ceilings. Fire escape, still out there, still between the private and the world, still the best room in the building, still holding everyone who needs to say something true out loud above the city that never sleeps, but always, always makes room. Still out here, both chairs, fire escape. Yeah, come on. Something about you, never seen anything like it. Yeah, you move different, talk different, laugh at things nobody else finds funny, reference films I've never heard of, cook things I can't pronounce, but eat 3 portions of your whole world right before you. In the particular way you carry yourself, like someone who was raised somewhere beautiful and never forgot it. You correct my French with a patience that makes me wanna be wrong more often. Explain your country like a love letter, every detail precious, every tradition held like something fragile worth protecting, from a world that flattens everything into the same familiar shape. Foreign to everything I knew, foreign like a melody I can't get out of my head, but don't want to. Foreign like a city I visited once and never stopped planning to return to. You expanded my world just by existing in it. Foreign and familiar all at once, like something I forgot I was missing, until I found it right here in you. Teach me something in your language, something untranslatable, the word your people use for that feeling when beauty makes you sad, because you know it won't last forever. I think I've been feeling that since the moment we met. I just didn't have the word for it until now. Your mother called on a Sunday. You spoke for 40 minutes, I understood nothing. Watched your whole face change, softer, younger, someone else's child. Briefly home, and I thought I wanna learn every language you've ever lived in, every version of yourself that existed before me. I wanna know all of it, every country you carry inside you. Foreign like a frequency my body never heard but instantly responded to. Foreign like the perfect word in a language I don't speak yet, but already feel in my chest. You arrived from somewhere I've never been, and somehow felt like home the moment you walked in. Foreign, most beautiful thing I've ever known. Teach me, say it again. One more time, yeah.
Nobody tells you what growing actually feels like. Turns out it's quiet.
Grown looks like canceling plans without the guilt, choosing sleep over the story you tell tomorrow, knowing the difference between the people who fill the room and the people who fill the silence after everyone leaves, knowing which one you actually need. Grown sounds like saying no in a complete sentence without the paragraph of justification after it, like admitting you were wrong before the other person finishes proving it, like calling your parent. Not because something happened, but because Tuesday felt like the right day to say thank you for the things you couldn't understand until now. Grown ain't what I thought it was the money, the car, the plate, or the thing that made him stop questioning. Your seat at the table, grown, is so much quieter than all of that. Grown is knowing what you'll tolerate and what you won't, and meaning it both times. Grown is choosing the hard conversation over the comfortable silence. Grown is a moment you stop performing for an audience that was never really watching. 19-year-old me will be confused by who I am on a Friday night, home by 10, candle burning, something good on the stove. No apologies, no explanations, no performance of use for people who needed me to stay small so they could feel big. That version of me needed this version to exist first. Had to become him to understand what I was becoming toward. Grieving things that weren't losses, technically the friendships that became seasonal, the dreams you loved but weren't yours, the version of the future you planned at 20 that bore no resemblance to the life that actually wanted you. Grown means letting those go without a ceremony, without bitterness, just opening the hand and watching what needed to leave. Then noticing what stayed, noticing what stayed was exactly enough. Grown is Sunday mornings with no agenda. Grown is honest honesty that costs you something and paying it anyway. There's the dinner table where everyone speaks and nobody performs. Grown is the mirror, you finally stop arguing with the love. You stop shrinking for grown is a morning you woke up and the first thought wasn't fear, wasn't lack, wasn't no need to be something I'm not today. First thought was I'm okay, I'm genuinely actually okay. Grown, finally. Took a while. Worth every year. Finally grown. Yeah. Optimist says half full. I say depends on the day. My mother says I came out skeptical. Looked at the delivery room like I had notes on the production. Didn't cry, just assess the situation. Decided it would do for now. 40 years later, still doing that. Still arriving everywhere, slightly unconvinced. Looking for the footnote in the fine print of every beautiful thing. I've talked myself out of joy before it finished arriving. Spotted the expiration date on the packaging before I open it. Love people with one eye on the exit. Not from cruelty, just from the specific mathematics of a man who learned early that good things have a cost, usually paid slightly after the part. That's my default set. Before the glass is even finished pouring, already calculating the diminishing, already mourning what hasn't left yet. Exhausting way to live. Expensive way to love. Holding something warm with both hands, thinking about cold. Working on it. Some days better than others. Some days I catch myself halfway through happy before the artist starts, and I think maybe, just maybe, this is enough. Right now, this is full. She called me out at breakfast Saturday, said you're doing it again. I said, doing what? She said, you're already grieving the eggs while they're still hot. I put my fork down, looked at the eggs, looked at her, looked at the window in the light coming through it, and the coffee still steaming, and thought she's right, she's completely right. The eggs are hot right now. The eggs are hot. One that doesn't subtract before it adds. One that lets the morning be morning without pre-calculating the afternoon. One that holds good things without automatically inventorying their way to slow work rewiring. A skeptic into someone who lets the glass be whatever it is without needing naming before he's finished drinking. Less than I used to be. Things be full for a minute, full for a morning, full for however long they wanna be. Without my interference, without my footnotes, without the fine print, I add to everything good having. Not a flaw, just a starting point. A man who learned that beauty leaves, learning now that it also arrives half empty. But the other half is filling slowly with things like heartaches on a Saturday, and someone who notices and says, just eat them while they're high. Just seat down while they're high. Yeah, half full today. Just a day passing half full. Yeah. 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 Some things get passed down without permission, without a will. Hey, hey, hey. My grandfather never said I love you to anyone that anyone can remember, but built a house with his hands in 3 summers for a family that didn't ask for a house. They asked for other things he didn't have the vocabulary for, so he built what he could build and called it the same thing by a different name. And maybe it was, and maybe it wasn't. Maybe that distinction is the inheritance I'm still working through. My mother inherited his silence, softened it into something closer to words, but not quite there yet. Passed me the almost a gesture toward language that stops just before landing. I catch myself doing it in arguments and tenderness, in the moments that require the full sentence, delivering instead the almost sentence. The hand on the shoulder that means everything I don't yet know how to say. Nobody puts in the will. Inheritance, the way you hold your jaw when something hurts, the way you leave the room when the feeling gets too large for the space, the way you love sideways because straight ahead was never modeled. Inheritance, not blame, just information about where the pattern started. It in the quiet radical work of deciding where it stops. Inheritance, I'm the generation that got to name it. That is so gift. My therapist says awareness is the first generation of change that my children, if I have them, will inherit something slightly different from what I got. Not perfect, nobody passes down perfect, but softer in the places that were hard, more words in the places that were only gestures, more landed, less almost, and less small shift across one lifetime. It's not nothing, it's actually everything. I called my mother on a Sunday, said I love you before she could say it first, which we do every call, but this time I meant something extra by it, something that included her father and his hands and the house he built. Instead of saying the thing and softening it into almost a me receiving the almost, and spending 40 years learning to complete the sentence she started for me. I love you means all of that on a Sunday. take the love, leave the silence. Take the loyalty, leave the distance. Take the hands that built things, leave the idea that building things is the only language love speaks. Inheritance I am adding to the document that was handed to me incomplete. Adding the words that were missing, adding the landing to the almost, adding the full sentence to the gesture for whoever comes after, whoever inherits this version of the pattern. Slightly gentler, slightly more fluent in the language of saying the actual thing. Inheritance, the most important work. Nobody pays you for the work that matters most. I got you. Different now, yeah. Yeah. Between chapters, this is where I live. Not the beginning, not the end. Somewhere in the middle, where the story loses confidence in itself, where the protagonist sits down in a city that isn't home, orders something from a menu he can't read, and decides that being lost has its own specific dignity. I've been the interlude in other people's stories, the chapter they reference when describing how they grew, the person who appeared between the one who broke them and the one who put it back together. Never quite the main event, always a bridge between somebody else's verses, where the melody rests, where the story catches its breath before the next movement, for the resolution, for whatever the universe has been building toward all this time. Not failure, not pause, not the absence of something happening, but the necessary space between one life and the next one. I'm learning to live here without rushing to the next track. The Japanese have a word more for the space between things, the silence between notes that gives music its shape, the pause between breaths that makes breathing possible. I am living in the moment right now, and for the first time I'm not treating it like a problem to be solved. Some days the interlude feels like waiting, some days it feels like the whole point, like maybe the destination people rush toward is just another interlude, dressed up in the costume of arrival. Maybe the bridge is where the real music lives, maybe the in-between is the only place honest enough to show you who you actually are, when nobody's watching, when there's no next thing to perform toward. Between the man I was and whoever's coming next, putting down every heavy thing I carried through the previous chapters without questioning whether I needed them. Drinking coffee slowly in a city that doesn't know my name. Grateful for the anonymity, grateful for the month, grateful for the space between one story and the next, grateful for the bridge that taught me I was always the music, not just the words. Still here in the between. had to be home to be reached. My grandmother had a phone on the kitchen wall, avocado green, cord long enough to reach the table, but not the bedroom, which was by design. She said some conversations belong in the kitchen, where the coffee is, where the light comes in correctly, where honesty has somewhere to sit down. We used to call each other's houses, ask for each other by name, to whoever answered, which meant sometimes your mother, sometimes your father, sometimes your sister, who made you wait while she decided whether to tell you anyone was home. There was a whole negotiation, a whole social contract built into the simple act of trying to reach someone. Landline love had to mean it, to dial all those digits had to mean it, to wait through the ring and not knowing if anyone's home to receive you. Ooh, landline love, no receipts, no typing indicators, no way to know if the message landed until someone picked up or didn't. Landline love, the uncertainty was the intimacy, the not knowing made the knowing matter when it finally came. Landline, we lost something when we made reaching each other effortless. We lost the weight of the attempt, the meaning in the dialing. I think about what we traded, convenience for the gap between thinking of someone and telling them. Used to be longer, used to require more, used to mean you thought of them long enough to do the thing that thinking requires. Now the gap is 2 seconds and a thumb, and something got cheaper in the exchange, something got lighter than it should be. My grandmother called every Sunday, same time without fail, for 30 years after my grandfather was gone. Still called his number for the first month. Said she forgot, but I think she just needed the ritual of reaching towards someone, even knowing nobody was picking up, which is the most human thing I've ever heard of anyone doing. Still dialing, still reaching, still needing the weight of the attempt, even into the silence, even into the unanswered ringing. Landline love, my grandmother at the wall, avocado green, Sunday morning coffee made light coming in correctly, dialing because she meant it, because meaning it required the dialing. Land love, I wanna love like that, deliberately with the full weight of the attempt. No shortcuts, no convenience, no 2-second thumb on a glowing screen. I wanna stand in the kitchen where the light comes in correctly and reach towards you with everything the reaching requires. Landline, old-fashioned, worth it, every digit, every ring, every moment of not knowing if you're home. Worth it to hear you pick up, finally pick up. Still dialing, still reaching. Landline, pick up, yeah, yeah. One, one, one. is emptying, chairs going up on tables, DJ playing something slow for whoever's left, which is us, which is always us. Last ones on the floor, not because we planned it, but because neither of us knows how to leave a good thing before it's finished, even when it's finishing. The heels are in your hand, have been since the third song. Dancing barefoot on a floor that's seen 1,000 endings, dressed up as celebrations. You don't seem to notice the room leaving around us, so you notice, and you're choosing this anyway. One more song, one more revolution of something we built on dance floors exactly like this one. Last dance, don't tell me what comes after. Last dance, let the song decide how long forever lasts. Tonight, last dance, where everything we never said gets said through movement, through proximity, through the particular conversation bodies have when words have run out of courage. Last dance, baby, let it last dance, let it last, let it last, let it last. The lights are coming up the way they always do, exposing everything, the beautiful and the tired, and the mascara, and the truth that nights like this don't last forever, or never supposed to. But the last dance lies forever in the specific muscle memory of two people who gave it everything they had left on an emptying floor at the end of something worth dancing through. Outro now, we both know what an outro sounds like. When you've been listening your whole life for the moment music tells you time is up, you pull me closer instead of stepping back. And I think this is who you are, this is the thing I love most, the way you respond to endings, by leaning in, by refusing the graceful exit, by choosing one more measure, something good over the sensible goodbye. Last dance, and we made it. Something nobody watching will forget. Last dance, every step, every turn, every moment, your head against my shoulder, telling the room we were here, we were real, we were absolutely worth every song that led to this one. Let it play through the lights coming up, through the chairs on the tables, through the whole world telling us tonight is over. Last dance, we say not yet, not yet. One more measure, one more moment of this last dance forever. Just one more, still dancing, still here, yeah. Something about cooking at midnight, mixing honest things come out. at 1 a.m. sometimes, with ingredients and a look that means the night went sideways somewhere between dinner and now. Doesn't explain, just starts opening cabinets like she owns them, which she doesn't, but she does in the way that matters, in the way that counts. When someone knows where you keep the good olive oil without her asking. There's a version of every person that only appears in midnight kitchens after the performance of the day is taken its bow. After the face you show the world gets hung up with the code at the door. Midnight kitchen version moves slower, talks quieter, laughs at smaller things, cries at nothing. Everything in after-made in measure. Midnight kitchen, where the real stuff gets made. Midnight kitchen, where the recipes are feelings. Nobody played it during business hours. Midnight kitchen, floor on the counter, something in the oven. Nobody ordered, but everybody needed. Midnight kitchen, where she tells me good things she told nobody at dinner. Where I say the thing I couldn't find in the daylight. Where we become the versions of ourselves we're still working up to being in public. Midnight kitchen, the most honest room in any house. She burned the onions twice while telling me about her father. Didn't notice either time I noticed. Both times said nothing, just turned the flame down. Added something to compensate, which is also what you do in a life with someone. Turn the flame down, add something to compensate. Let the things she's saying be more important than the onions, which it always is, which it always will be. By 3 a.m. something was made that neither of us can name exactly, but ate completely. Standing at the counter because the table felt too formal for what we become by then. Two people pass the performance, pass it careful into something that tasted like actually knowing someone, tasted like being known back, which is the rarest, most filling, most necessary thing anyone ever puts in front of you. At 3 a.m. in a kitchen that smells like burned onions and something unnamed and completely. Oh, midnight kitchen, I will always leave the light on for whoever needs to show up with ingredients and a look that means the night went sideways. Midnight kitchen, where the burnt things get compensated, where the quiet things finally get said, where the counter gets messy with the actual substance of a life being shared without reservation, without the daylight filter, without the daylight filter. Best table I ever sat at, standing up at 3 a.m. reading something with someone who knows where I keep the good olive oil and stays anyway, stays. Midnight kitchen, always the light, always on, still hungry. Always wrong. put the address in, then deleted it. Just drove. Yeah. Left the apartment at 6-some before the city. Remember, it was supposed to be loud. Tank full, no destination, no park gas, no carefully curated driving playlist, just the engine and the road, deciding together where a person goes when they need to outrun something that has no address to outrun toward. Past 3 towns I'd never heard of, stopped in the second one for gas and coffee from a machine that took my dollar. Thought about it, then gave me something technically describable as coffee. Drank it in the parking lot, watching a man load lumber into a truck with the focused satisfaction of someone who knows exactly what he's building. And envied him that specifically that miles between me and whatever I was running from. Miles of farmland, miles of nothing, miles of everything that isn't the problem. Miles accumulating behind me like evidence that I kept moving when staying felt impossible. Miles, the oldest therapy, the most honest one. No couch, no intake form, no 50 minutes, just rode in the particular grace of forward motion. I always come back, but I always go first. Pulled over at a rest stop somewhere between the 2nd and 3rd town. Nobody remembered to name properly. Walked to the edge of a field, stood there for a while. Wind doing winders, which is everything and nothing at once. Felt something loosen in the chest, the particular release of a man who drove far enough from his life to see it from a distance and realize it was smaller than it felt from inside. It always smaller from the field. It drove back as the sun was making its exit, the specific orange of a sky that knows it's being watched and performs accordingly. Radio found something old, something my father would have known the words to. I found myself knowing the melody without the words, which felt right, which felt like exactly the right amount of inheritance for a Tuesday that became something else entirely by the grace of an open road and a full tank and the wisdom to leave before the walls closed in completely. Ooh. Miles behind me, miles of perspective, miles that ask nothing except that I keep moving. Keep the wheels on the road, keep the window down enough for the air to do its work. Miles that gave back something I didn't know. I lost the sense that the problem has edges, that the feeling has a border, that's somewhere just past the 2nd town. Nobody named properly. The chest loosens, the field opens, the sky performs, and a man remembers he is not the walls he lives between. He is also the road, he is also the miles. He is also capable of forward motion, always mine, still moving. Home soon, not yet miles. Yeah. keep coming back. Same rooms, different nights. There's a painting on the third floor of a museum nobody visits on Tuesday. Woman at a window looking at something. The painter decided we don't need to see just her back, her posture, the particular lean of someone waiting for something that may or may not be coming. I've stood in front of it 4 times this year. Each time it meant something different. Each time I was someone different standing there. Oh, oh, oh. Guard on the 3rd floor knows me now, nods without smiling, which is its own kind of warmth. The particular acknowledgement of someone who sees you returning to the same room for reasons that don't require explanation. He's watched people stand in front of things for decades. Probably knows more about grief, more about searching, more about what people look for in no pain. On Tuesday afternoons, then most therapy with their intake forms and their tissue boxes. The museum of everything. I keep returning to moments that refuse to be just moments. Museum of a face, the specific cues that she laughed before she knew I was watching. Museum of my father at the kitchen table, both hands on the mug. Museum of the field I stood in, going nowhere on purpose. Everything preserved in here, everything archived in the particular amber of memory that doesn't ask permission to stay. Museum, I'm the curator and the exhibit. What do you look for when you look at something long enough to make the guard notice? I think you look for the thing artists decided to leave out. The thing just beyond the frame, the sound before the silence. The person who made the woman lean toward the window like that, with that posture, with that particular way. Between her shoulders a as I'm waiting, I know how waiting goes, and I'm doing it anyway. I bought a postcard of the painting on the way out for a visit. Put it on my desk at home between the coffee and the lamp. Now I see her every morning, woman at a window waiting, and I think maybe she's not waiting anymore. Maybe the painter caught her in the exact moment she decided to stop. And that lean, that specific weight is the posture of someone letting go of the window and turning toward the room, toward whatever waits in the interior of a life worth finally turning toward. Museum of letting go, museum of turning around, museum of the morning I stopped leaning toward what wasn't coming and looked instead at what was already in a room. Museum of small revelations found on Tuesdays in front of paintings nobody visits. Museum of the guard who nods without smiling, which is its own kind of love. Museum of the postcard on my desk, reminding me every morning that the thing just beyond the frame is probably less interesting than what's right here, right now in the room. I'm already standing in museum. I'll be back Tuesday, different night. something new. L'attente cette année à ton visage. November came early, leaves the color of us. Couldn't tell the difference between the cold and the loss every gray morning. Tastes like something familiar, the particular sadness of a city that doesn't know it's supposed to mourn. Yeah. I wore your hoodie. I wore your hoodie 3 weeks after. Told myself it was cold, not that I needed something that still smelled like a Sunday. We didn't waste back when Sundays were still ours to keep. November won't let me go. Got your shadow in every window, every stranger with your walk, every song that makes me stop. November knows what I lost, sends reminders at no cost. Leaf by leaf, day by day, November won't look away. Je pensais que l'hiver effacerait tout ça, mais il neige sur nous deux et tu n'es toujours pas là. By December, maybe I'll know how to breathe past the particular hate of a season that learned your name before I learned how to live without it. November, yeah. November, still November.
Grew up talking. To myself. Got very good at it.
Earning entertainment company before I learned long division. Invented games with rules nobody else needed to know. Built whole worlds in the hallway between my bedroom and the kitchen, where my mother cooked and hummed something without words that I still hear in elevators and waiting rooms, in the particular silence between strangers who don't know they're sharing something. Nobody to blame when something broke, nobody to tell when something happened and needed an audience. Kept a journal at 9 years old, not because anyone suggested it, but because something was accumulating that needed somewhere to go. That wasn't just me in the hallway, and my mother's were this only child. Learned to be enough for himself before anyone taught him that was a skill. Only child for in a world carefully constructed, beautifully furnished, occasionally lonely. In the specific way a room can be lonely when you built it alone. Only child, which means also the one they poured everything into. All the hope, all the fear, all the expectation, and all the love. Got all the love into one place. race. Only child, that's a lot to carry and a lot to be grateful for both. Simultaneously always both. People assume only children don't know how to share, but we share everything with ourselves. Every victory split between the part that achieved it and the part that washed. Every loss divided equally between the self that failed and the self that had to comfort the failure. We are our own entire village from the beginning, which makes us either very resilient or very tired. Usually both. When I love someone, I love them like I love everything completely, without the practice of distributing among siblings, among the competing needs of a crowded house. I love them with the full force of someone who saved it up in a hallway for years, waited for someone to give it to it. Just beautiful and occasionally overwhelming for the recipient. Time working on the volume, on the intensity, on giving people room to breathe inside my love. Still learning that lesson, still the only child in a room full of people wondering if this time the world will stay. Only child, my mother's whole heart outside her body. Only child, my father's legacy, his name, his hands, his way of standing in doorways, watching, making sure everyone's okay. Only child, the loneliness was real, the richness was also real. In a world I built in that hallway, still the place I return to when the outer world gets loud. Only child, still talking to myself, getting very good answers to my mother's hum in the elevators, to my father's hands on the steering wheel. Only child, whole entirely wonderfully. Oh, still in that hallway, still building worlds, yeah. Only me, that's enough. Every ending is somebody's open door. Open. I used to think closing was a skill, the graceful exit, the clean goodbye, knowing when to fold a chapter back onto itself and call it done. Spend years getting good at the closing, not that this was good, and now it isn't. At the thank you for the seasoning, the stepping back into my own outline and moving on. Got very efficient at leaving, called it wisdom for a long time. It was fear. Open doors terrify me more than closed ones. Closed doors I understand, know the language, know the ceremony of endings. Open doors ask something different, ask you to walk into a space you cannot see the back of, ask you to trust the floor you haven't felt yet under your feet, ask you to believe that the unknown room might hold something worth the exposure of walking in without knowing what's inside. Open doors, standing in the frame. Open doors, neither in or out, but choosing. Open doors, the hardest thing for someone who got skilled at leaving is learning how to stay long enough to see what the room actually is before deciding it isn't for them. Open doors, I'm practicing standing still in the threshold longer than feels comfortable. Open door, learning that the discomfort of not knowing what's inside is not a sign to leave, it's a sign. You're about to find out something worth knowing. The door I'm looking at right now has no label, which used to mean walk past dummies, look closer, has has no guarantee. Which used to mean not worth it, now means real. Has no clear view to the back of the room. Which used to mean dangerous, now means large enough to hold something I haven't imagined yet. I'm putting my hand on the frame that's new, that's different from every previous version of me. Hand on the frame, feeling the wood under my palm, deciding to find out what's inside for the first time in a long time. Choosing the open over the closed, choosing the unknown over the efficient goodbye. Every track on this record was a door. I walked back to find something I'd left inside. The grandfather at the typewriter, the fire escape in July, the midnight kitchen, the window seat, the museum. I'm on a Tuesday, the landline on the kitchen wall, the woman at her window leaning towards something just beyond the frame. I went back through every door, found what I needed, which was not what I expected, which is always the way with open doors, always exactly that way. Open door, I'm walking through this time. Open door, all the previous rooms led here to this frame, to this threshold, to this specific, terrifying, necessary, beautiful open door that has no label, no guarantee, no view to the back of the room, just a floor I haven't felt yet under my feet, and then decision to find out what a man becomes when he starts perfecting the goodbye and starts practicing the arrival. Open door, here I finally go, walking through. Door stays open behind me for whoever needs it next. Yeah, open door, always. Handle with care. I mean it this time. I told you up front I don't do this well. Handed you the disclaimer before the first chapter. Said my heart is paper, folds easy, tears easy, water damage, a real concern you left. Said you'd be careful and you were for a while, for a beautiful, insufficient while. You left the window open on a rainy Tuesday. Didn't mean anything by it, just forgot. But paper hearts don't care about intention, just consequence, just a slow, irreversible damage of water, finding its way into everything you forgot to protect. Paper heart doesn't bounce back like the other kind. Paper heart holds a crease of every fold. Every time you can unfold it back to flat, can't pretend the lines aren't there. Paper heart carries every mark of every hand that held it, carelessly or carefully, either way it shows. Paper heart, that's what I gave you. The whole unlaminated, unprotected, ridiculous thing, and you held it like it was ordinary, like hearts came in other material. There's an art form, kintsugi, where broken things get filled with gold. The damage becomes the beauty, the crack becomes the story. I've been trying to believe that about myself. Some mornings it almost works, some mornings the paper just looks torn. Says, get get a thicker skin. My father says, toughen up, son. My own reflection says, try again, try differently. Try with someone who understands the material, who handles paper like it matters, who reads the disclaimer, it doesn't laugh, who says, I know I'll be careful. It means it all the way through the rain. Paper heart, still beating somehow. Paper heart, still offered every time, despite the evidence, despite the water damage, despite every sensible reason to switch materials. Paper heart, because armor never felt like me. Steel doesn't feel things the way paper does. Doesn't hold the light the way paper does. When someone holds it up to the sun. Paper heart, every single time, completely, irreversibly mine. Handle with care, please. This time, yeah. Yeah. She said my name like a question, like she wasn't sure it fit, yeah. I know what I am in this chapter of your story, the transitional figure, the one who arrives after the damage, before the healing is complete, the one who teaches you that kindness is in the gender that last hurt you without being the one who gets to keep you once the lesson lands. You laugh differently with me than you will with him, whoever him is, the one coming after the placeholder, after the man who held the space while you remember how to trust the particular warmth of being chosen, without conditions, without the fine print you've grown so used to reading before you. Some placeholder, useful word for a complicated thing. Placeholder in the document of your becoming. I'm the text that sits there while you figure out the final version. Placeholder, not nothing, never nothing, but not the destination. A rest stop between where you were and wherever you're going. That's better than where you were. Placeholder. I know it, probably from the second week. Loved you anyway, because the alternative was not loving you, and that was never actually an option. I don't resent the architecture of this. Some people are built for the long road, some people are built for the bridge, and bridges are not lesser than the roads they connect. Without the bridge you don't get from one side to the other. Without the bridge, a distance remains a distance. I was your bridge and I was good at it, and that is something to be proud of. Quietly, privately proud of. You texted me 8 months later, said you met someone, said you wanted me to know before I heard it elsewhere. Said I was important, said the word grateful 3 times in 4 sentences, which is a lie, which told me everything about what you carry from our season into his. I wrote back something short, something true, said you deserve every good thing coming your way. Meant it every syllable so meant it completely. Put the phone down, made coffee both hands, even in July, and sat with the particular quiet dignity of a man who loved well in the time he was given. Placeholder with a whole heart. Placeholder who showed up every time, without reservation, without the exit strategy. Some people keep in their back pocket just in case. Placeholder who would do it again, differently, maybe the same. Probably because the other option is to stop building bridges. And I am a bridge builder by nature, by necessity, by the particular grace of understanding that love doesn't always get to announce its form before it arrives. Placeholder complete in itself, necessary in its season, honored in its passing. Placeholder, which is another word for the person who loved you before you were ready to be loved like you deserve. Worth it every time. Placeholder, still here, building bridges. Yeah, yeah. They know how to don't even ask anymore. Oh yeah. Coffee shop on the corner of 5th block. I live now long enough to become part of its furniture. The woman behind the counter started making mine. When she sees me through the window coming down the street, before I reach the door, before I ask, before the transaction that isn't really a transaction anymore, just two people in a ritual, neither of them name, but both of them depend on more than they'd admit. There's a dignity in being known by the places you return to. The dry cleaner who asks about the trip you mentioned 3 weeks ago. The barber who remembers what you said last time, without notes, without system. Just the particular attention of someone who decided you were worth remembering, which is its own small extraordinary thing. Regular, all the right places. Regular, meaning known, meaning expected, meaning somewhere's already started making the thing you need before you knew you needed it. Regular, the opposite of anonymous in all the ways that matter. On a Tuesday when the world is large and indifferent, and you walk through a door and someone behind the counter looks up and smiles, the specific smile of recognition. Regular, that smile is everything. Some mornings, that smile is everything. She asked me once during a slow hour why I always sit at the same table by the window. I said, creature of habit. She said, no, you sit there because it faces the door, because you like to see who's coming. I didn't know what to do with being read that accurately by someone I never told anything. Just ordered coffee from for 2 years. Said, yeah, you're right. She nodded, went back to the counter, made someone else's already started order. And I thought, this is what community actually is. Not the grand version, not the organized version, just as being known accurately by the people you return to. I moved once to another city for 18 months. That felt like a kind of voluntary amnesia. Nobody knew my order, nobody started making it when they saw me coming through the window. Had to introduce myself to every counter, every stool, every routine from the beginning, which is exhausting in a way. Nobody warns you about the energy it takes to be unknown in all the small places that make a life feel like a life. Came back, walked through the corner door, she looked up, said the usual. I said the usual, and something I hadn't felt in 18 months. Came back with the coffee. Regular is another word for home. Regular at the corner place. Regular where they know the order and the table and the face I make when something is bothering me that I'm not ready to name. Regular where the coffee is already started before I ask where the question how will you mean something, because they'll notice if the answer doesn't match my face. The most underrated form of belonging, the quiet accumulation of showing up to the same place with the same face, until the place knows your face, knows your order, knows your table by the window that faces the door, because you like to see who's coming. Regular, I'm home, I'm regular, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. The usual. Thank you. Yeah. Good to be back. Hey. Yeah. Everything except the one thing. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Penthouse on the west side, plaza like a boutique, driver waiting downstairs every single day of the week. Dinner reservations, places nobody gets in, but you eat it alone again. Every night just pretending that the lifestyle fills the space that a person left behind. That square footage and status can replace a certain kind. Friends will know your table, not the tremor in your voice. People celebrating money, not the weight behind your choice. To leave the one who loved you for the one who looked apart. Traded something breathing for a beautiful postcard. And postcards don't hold you when the penthouse feels like ice, and the driver doesn't notice you've been crying twice this week. Rich girl problems, nobody wants to hear. Rich girl problems, loneliness in a higher tier. Can't post what's really happening behind the perfect frame. Got everybody thinking you're the one who never felt the rain. Rich girl problems, gold on everything but churches. Rich girl problems, having all of it and none of the rest. Take it off. Oh, the armor, the aesthetic, the carefully constructed life that looks like winning from a distance. Come here, just be a person for one night. Just be somebody who needs something real. You called me from the rooftop, said you didn't know why. Said everything was perfect, said she couldn't even cry. I said crying doesn't care about your zip code or your shoes. Said emptiness is democratic, everybody pays those dues. Come down from the rooftop, let somebody in. All that square footage, baby, is just space without a friend. Rich girl problems, real as any other kind. Rich girl problems, hidden different even after midnight, when the champagne's gone and the guests have left, and the view is just a view, and there's nothing left but the honest truth that beautiful was never enough. Calm down, just calm down. Sending something out into the silence, waiting for anything to bounce back. I've been broadcasting on frequencies nobody tunes to anymore, sending out the careful version of what I actually mean, the edited, socially acceptable, abbreviated translation of something that deserves its original language. But I forgot what language that was. Somewhere between 20 and now, between authentic and acceptable, between signal and noise. My generation learned to communicate in distances, text instead of call, emoji instead of sentence, reaction instead of response. We got efficient at saying nothing with remarkable consistency. I'm guilty too, left things on red that deserved a paragraph, sent a thumbs up to something that deserved a phone call. At minimum is showing up at best. Signal lost somewhere between who I am and what I broadcast. Signal lost in the translation, from feeling the language, from language to screen, from screen to you. Something always gets dropped in translation. Signal lost, but I keep sending, keep adjusting the frequency, keep climbing higher for better reception. Keep believing that somewhere out there, someone's antenna is pointed exactly toward me. Signal, come in, please. Signal what I actually want to say, without the editing, without the distance, is that I miss being known by someone specifically, not generally liked, not broadly appreciated, but known the way a person knows a place they return to. So often they stop needing directions. I wanna be somebody's no directions needed. I wanna be somebody's already know the way. Ran into someone at the bookstore. We've been close once, the kind of close that doesn't need explanation, just exists and slowly doesn't. We talked for 12 minutes about nothing that mattered. Said we should catch up minute, neither of us would do it, and we both knew. Standing there, which is its own kind of communication, its own clear signal, received, understood, fight away under the category of things that were true, then became something else without a meaning about it. Signal finding you somehow, through all the noise, through all the distance, through all the years of broadcasted. It was spaces that didn't know how to receive. Signal finding you, because some transmissions were always meant for one specific receiver, and the universe has its own routing system, its own patient algorithm for getting the right message to the right person at the right frequency. Signal, I'm here, still broadcasting, still climbing for better reception, still believing the right antenna is out there pointed toward exactly there. Do you read me? mode we first time in months, feel suspicious. Phone's been quiet since yesterday. World apparently decided to give me one of those days that arise without announcement, without agenda, like a gift from a universe that usually charges interest on everything nice it does. She's still warm, light coming sideways through the blinds, making patterns on the ceiling. I've been studying for 40 minutes, no conclusions, no action required. Made the coffee the slow way, the way I skip every other morning, because time is always a thing there isn't enough of. But today time seems plentiful, generous, even standing at the counter, listening to it drip like that's a reasonable activity for a grown man on a Sunday. And it is, it absolutely is. Slow Sunday, body finally remembering what rest feels like, without guilt attached. Slow Sunday, no productivity, no optimizing, no becoming, just being whatever being feels like when you stop performing. It's slow Sunday, the whole day a long exhale after a week of hell breath. Slow Sunday, this is what I was made for. Between all the rushing, between all the doing, this particular gorgeous, useless, perfect nothing. There's a bird on the fire escape doing what birds do, which is nothing specific, everything general, just existing in the morning without a plan for the morning. And I think I've spent my entire adult life trying to be more productive than a bird, and the bird seems fine. A bird seems genuinely, completely fine. By afternoon the light has moved across the whole apartment like it was taking inventory, touching everything. Once the books I haven't read, the plant that's doing better, the photo on the shelf from the trip 3 years ago, when I was somebody slightly different who didn't know yet what the next 3 years would ask of him. I look at that version with something approaching tenderness. He was doing his best with what he had. Same as now, same as always, same as everyone doing their best on a slow Sunday, with the light moving through. Slow Sunday, antidote to everything. Slow Sunday, permission to be insufficient in the most efficient way. No output, no deliverables, no metrics for the quality of an afternoon spent watching light move across a room. You finally stop rushing through. Slow Sunday, teaching me the radical act of presence, without purpose of existing, without justification of being alive in the room, without needing the room to know it. Slow Sunday, come back soon, come back every week without fail. Come back and find me right here, exactly here, ready to do absolutely nothing with everything I am. Nowhere to be, right here. Slow Sunday, yeah. Slow Sunday, yeah. Slow Sunday, yeah. Slow Sunday, yeah. Slow Sunday. She doesn't know how much she meant. works a double shift on Friday, saves every other check for school. Got a dream she keeps in a notebook under her bed. Nobody knows about. Calls her mother every morning before the city wakes her up, drinks her coffee, standing at the window like she's memorizing something before it disappears. She laughs too loud in quiet restaurants, apologizes, then does it again. Tips the waiter more than she should on her salary that doesn't bend. Takes the long way home when the weather's right. Says a wall clears something in her chest, in her chest. Nothing else gets to. She's somebody's daughter, somebody's whole reason, somebody's answered prayer. From a harder season, somebody sat up nights worrying her into existence. Somebody's still thanking God she made the distance from then to now, from there to here. She's somebody's miracle walking around like it isn't clear. Somebody's daughter, living her life like she doesn't know she's somebody, everything. And I watch her navigate the city like it owes her nothing, which it doesn't, but she takes it anyway. Makes it yield by sheer force of her specific, unrepeatable. And I think whoever raised her extraordinary, without knowing they were doing it, just loved her in a beast. She cried once in my car, wouldn't say why. Let the song say it for her. I didn't ask, just drove, took the long way, like she does when the weather right, when something needs clearing. And she looked over, eventually said thank you for not making it a thing. I said some things don't need to be a thing. She nodded, looked back out the window, and I thought this right here. She's somebody's daughter, somebody's daughter, and my favorite person, somebody's bedtime prayer. And my whole reason for wanting to be the kind of man we're standing next to when she finally decides she's done doing this alone. Somebody's daughter, strongest thing I've ever seen. Do it quietly without applause, without a scene, just showing up every single day. Somebody's daughter, somebody's everything. Mine too, if she'll have me. Mine too, if she doesn't know. But I do. Mine too, somebody's daughter. Mine too. Three empty streets, everything under yellow light. There's a street light outside my building, been flickering since October. City filed a report, nobody came. Now it just stutters every 40 seconds like something trying to communicate in a language nobody bothered to decode. I watch it from the fire escape. Some nights find it comforting, something else out here circling to stay lit. The neighborhood at 3 a.m. belongs to different people. The nurse going home, shoes still on from a shift that that's too much. The kid on the corner who nods at me now. After 6 months of mutual insomnia, the woman walking the dog who always looks like she's solving something important in her head. People the daytime doesn't see, people who live in the between. Streetlight city, different after dark, yeah. Streetlight city, showing different scars, the cracks in the pavement, the rust on the gates, the beauty that daytime moves too fast to appreciate. Streetlight city, where the lonely find each other without trying, without speaking, just existing parallel under the same flickering yellow light. Street light, we're all just trying to stay lit out here, trying to stay lit here. Saw a couple arguing quietly on the steps of the laundromat. Not dramatically, no gestures, just two people sitting with the particular exhaustion of loving someone through a hard season. She said something, he nodded, took her in. They sat there another 20 minutes, not talking, just hand in hand on laundromat steps at 3 a.m. And I thought that right there, that's what I want. Somebody to sit with on the hard steps in the flickering light, not performing, just present. The street light fixed itself one Tuesday, just stopped flickering, steady, now reliable. I noticed immediately, stood at the window longer than necessary, thinking about how you don't appreciate the steady light until you watch something struggle to provide it. How the flicker made me pay attention in a way steady never would have. Sometimes a broken version of a thing teaches you more about the thing than the fixed version ever could. Streetlight city, teaching me the streetlight city, what the daylight hides from streetlights for me. Yeah, the nurse, the kid, the couple on the steps, the woman and her dog, the man on the fire escape who needed to be reminded that struggling to stay lit is still staying lit. Streetlight city, 3 a.m. and beautiful, 3 a.m. and real, 3 a.m. and full of people doing the quiet, unremarkable, a reproduction work of making it through the night. Streetlight, we're all out here flickering, staying together, still flickering, still lit. 3 a.m. beautiful. My therapist asked me what I'm running from. I say your name, then change the subject. 50 minutes every Tuesday, talking circles round the truth. She keeps asking about childhood, I keep staring back to you. Said my patterns are avoiding, said I intellectualize, said I use my words as armor, said I'm brilliant at disguise. She pushed the tissue box toward me, 3rd session in a row. Said the crying is a breakthrough. I said I'd rather not, you know. But something cracked that afternoon in that beige and quiet room. And she said, you keep describing her like someone you still love. Therapy on Tuesday, Can't fix a Sunday therapy on Tuesday. Can't patch up what you left bleeding. I got all the language now, attachment styles and all. Emotionally available, still waiting for your call. Therapy got me knowing everything about why I fell apart. Didn't give me one word for what to do with half a heart. I know my triggers, I know my wounds, I know exactly why I picked the wrong rules. Still fall in love in wrong time and wrong roles, knowing all of this doesn't stop the fall. She said progress isn't linear, said healing loops and bends. Said sometimes going backwards is just how forward begins. I wrote that down, put it on my mirror, read it every morning, get it slightly clearer. Still not clear enough to stop missing you at 3 a.m. when Tuesday feels a long way off. Same time next week. Yeah. Same time next week. Same time next week. Some people process out loud. A process on the page. My grandfather had a typewriter, Royal Quiet Deluxe, 1952. Not quiet by any modern standard, but quiet for his era, which is also how I described a man himself. Loud by the standards of his silence, quiet by the standards of everything he was actually carrying. He typed letters he never sent, found them after he was gone. 40 years of unsent correspondence to people who had died, to people who had left, to a version of himself he was always addressing, always arguing with, always trying to explain something to. The typewriter was his therapist, his confessional, his midnight kitchen, his aquarium, the place where the real version of himself showed up without an audience. Typewriter, keeping the record nobody asked for. Typewriter, every keystroke a small commitment to the truth of a moment that would otherwise disappear into the general forgetting that life does. Typewriter, no delete key, which means every word chosen with the knowledge that it stays on a page, stays in a record, stays on it. Speakers change and it requires visible effort, physical correction, visible evidence of the mind revising itself. Typewriter, the most honest machine ever made. I inherited it. The typewriter sat in my closet for 3 years before I understood what to do with a machine that demands commitment from a generation that learned everything can be undone with a single key. I took it out on a Tuesday, set it on the desk, fed a sheet of paper into his mouth and typed one sentence about my grandfather that I've been carrying for 6 years without a place to put it. Sat there, looking at it on the page, permanent, honest. His name in black ink on white paper, that's all that was enough. I type letters now to people I mean to send them to. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, sometimes the sending is beside the point. Sometimes the point is the sitting down with the full weight of the keys, with the sound that makes the neighbors think I'm building something, which I am. Sometimes the point is committing the actual word to the actual page, without the safety net of the delete key, without the revision that softens everything into something less true than it started. Typewriter teaching me that some things deserve the permanence and the difficult key, deserve the ink on the actual page, deserve to stay exactly as they were when they were true. Typewriter, my grandfather's 40 years of honest correspondence finally found its recipient, me, sitting at his machine, typing my own until letters to my own unresolved things, adding my voice to his record record. Two men separated by a decade, finding each other on the same page. Typewriter, typewriter.
Still sending.
Typewriter.
Yeah. Still on it.
Typewriter. Nobody put me on the list. Built my own list. Yeah. Never the loudest in any room. Never the one who arrived with an entrance prepared, just showed up consistently, which turns out is his own radical act in a world that mistakes volume for value and performance for presence. I've been present in rooms that didn't notice for years. Turns out I was taking notes the whole time. The underrated ones do the math differently. Don't calculate work by the response of the room. Calculate it by the quality of the work, by whether they can sleep at 3 a.m. without the particular insomnia of someone who compromised something they shouldn't have for a reaction. They didn't need sleep well most nights. That's the metric that counts. Underrated, not invisible. There's a difference. Underrated means the value is that just not yet claimed by the people doing the rating. Underrated, which is also just early, which is also just patient, which is also just building something real in the time it takes to build something real. Without shortcuts, without the viral moment that means nothing in 6 months. Underrated, fine with it more than fine. Underrated is where the real ones that live before the world catches up to what they already knew about themselves. My grandmother said some flowers bloom late, yeah. Not because something is wrong with the flower, but because that flower needed more time to become exactly itself. She wasn't talking about flowers, she was talking about me. 11 years old, still figuring out the shape of what I was. She already knew patience was not the consolation prize for people who didn't bloom fast. It was the actual prerequisite for blooming right. I watched the ones who arrived, loudly around, lead to the next thing and the next. Always needing a new room, a new audience, the new reaction to feel the thing they're looking for, which tells me they haven't found it. Which tells me the room was never the source. I found it in the work, in the consistency, in showing up to the thing, whether or not the thing was being watched. Found it in the sleeping well at 3 a.m. Found it in my grandmother's late blooming flower that she wasn't talking about flowers when she said underrated, and I'm bothered by the rating. Underrated, building something that doesn't need the room to notice to be worth building. Underrated, late blooming right on time for the version of this that was always gonna be worthy. Waiting for underrated, which is just another word. Rated, word is there, award is a love for honest in a world that rewards the performance of a thing over the thing itself. Underrated, I'll take it every time over the alternative, over the loud arrival that means nothing by Tuesday. Underrated, blooming exactly on schedule. My grandmother's schedule, the only one that ever mattered, on schedule. Always was under, watch. Underrated, watch. Underrated, watch. Always the window I booked the window seat on every flight without exception. Middle seat people scare me a little. Their acceptance of the in-between, their comfort with no view and no exit, just flanked on both sides by strangers, and the particular smell of recycled air and compromise. I need a glass, need the altitude, need to watch a city I just left become a diagram of itself, small enough to hold in one eye. There's a moment, every flight just after takeoff, with a plane banks left and the whole world tilts, and for exactly 3 seconds everything familiar becomes abstract. The highway, a gray ribbon, the neighborhood, a pattern, the life you just left at the gate, a collection of shapes that mean everything. Ground level, it means something different from up here. I live for those 3 seconds every time. Window seat, give me the altitude. Window seat, let me see what the ground can't show me. Every city beautiful from far enough up, every problem so correctly by enough distance. Window seat, where I do my best thinking, where the noise of being close to everything finally quiets into something I can hear. Window seat, not running, just rising temporarily, just enough to see the shape of the thing I'm inside. The woman next to me on the flight to somewhere asked why I always stare out like that. I said I'm looking for something. She said what? I said the exact moment where the known becomes the unknown, where familiar becomes foreign, where the place you spent years navigating becomes just light in geometry. She nodded like that made sense, went back to her book, which was also the correct response to an honest answer from a stranger at altitude. The descent is always harder than the climb, which nobody tells you about. Flying or about the other thing. Flying stands in for coming back down into the detail of a life that looks manageable from up here, but expands back to full size the moment the wheels touch ground. The highway becomes traffic, the neighborhood becomes the argument you left unfinished. The life becomes a life again with all its weight restored, and you walk through the terminal carrying the 3 seconds of altitude, like something you're trying not to spill before you reach wherever you're going. Window seat, I always choose you. Window seat, the ground needs the sky to understand itself correctly, and I need the altitude to love the ground the way it deserves to be loved. I'm close enough to be in it. Window seat teaches me every turn that the life I can't see clearly from inside is actually beautiful from